Is smoking weed actually a sin? Because depending on which Christian you ask, you will get two completely different answers. One person will tell you, bro, it's literally a plant, God made it. And somebody else will act like taking one hit means you just book yourself a first class ticket to hell. But here's the problem. The Bible never actually says, thou shalt not smoke weed. Cannabis isn't directly discussed as a recreational drug. And I'm not gonna sit here pretending I have never touched it either. I smoke weed sometimes. Not every day, not every week, more like once every few weeks or months. And yeah, sometimes it's generally relaxing, I like it. So this video isn't me judging people who smoke. Instead, I want to ask a much better question. If the Bible doesn't directly mention weed, what biblical principles can we actually use to judge it? Here are 5 tests. Number 5. The Bible doesn't directly ban weed. Let's start with the most obvious one. There's no verse that says, do not smoke marijuana. It's just not there. And Christians have to be careful about turning their personal opinions into commandments from God. But there's another side to that. Just because the Bible doesn't name something specifically, doesn't automatically make it good. The Bible doesn't mention TikTok either. That doesn't mean spending 14 hours a day scrolling TikTok is somehow spiritually healthy. The Bible often gives us principles, not a giant list covering every single thing humans will ever invent. So instead of asking, where does the Bible say weed is forbidden, ask, what happens to me when I use it? And that leads directly to number 4. Can you still be sober-minded? 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober-minded, be watchful. And Ephesians 5:18 warns Christians not to get drunk with wine. Notice something important. The Bible doesn't say wine itself is automatically evil. Jesus drank wine. The problem is drunkenness. Losing control, letting a substance take over your mind. And I think we should apply the same principle to weed. There's obviously a difference between somebody taking a little bit, relaxing and still knowing exactly what's happening, and somebody getting so insanely baked they can barely remember their own name. You know the difference? If the entire goal is I want to be completely destroyed, and my ability to think clearly tonight, to lose it, then I think the biblical case becomes pretty difficult. Because Christianity repeatedly values self-control, awareness, and a clear mind. So ask yourself, does weed relax me? Or does weed completely control my state of mind? Number 3, does it control you? This might be the biggest one for me. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6:12, I will not be dominated by anything. That principle goes way beyond weed, alcohol, porn, food, gaming, social media, money. Even working out can become unhealthy if your whole identity depends on it. The question is, can you put it down? For me personally, if I smoke once and then don't even think about weed again for 3 weeks, that's very different from needing to get high every single night just to feel normal. Imagine saying, I can stop anytime. Cool, then stop for a month. If that thought immediately scares you, that might tell you something, because there's a massive difference between I enjoy it sometimes and I need this. The moment something starts controlling your mood, your money, your relationships, your responsibilities, your relationship with God, that's no longer just a chill little habit, you know? That's becoming your master. And Christians are supposed to have no master except one, Jesus. Number 2, what does your conscience say? Romans chapter 14 is really interesting here. Paul talks about Christians disagreeing over things that aren't always completely black and white. One Christian might feel completely comfortable doing something. Another Christian might believe it would be wrong for him. And Paul basically says Don't ignore your conscience. This matters with weed too. Maybe one Christian can use cannabis occasionally and generally doesn't believe he's rebelling against God. Another Christian knows exactly where weed takes him. Maybe it makes him lazy. Maybe he used to be addicted. Maybe he starts ignoring responsibilities. Maybe being high always leads him into other stuff he knows he shouldn't be doing. For that person, saying, well, technically the Bible never says marijuana, is kind of missing the point. You already know what it does to you. And sometimes we don't actually want an answer from God. We want permission. That's different. So ask yourself seriously, am I doing this with a clear conscience? Or am I constantly trying to convince myself that something is fine because I really don't want to give it up? That question can get uncomfortable, but uncomfortable questions are sometimes the useful ones. And last but not least, number 1, weed is not the gospel. And this is probably the most important part of the entire video. Christians sometimes get so obsessed with individual sins that we completely lose the main message. Christianity is not good people who never smoke go to heaven and bad people who smoke weed go to hell. That's not the gospel. Romans 3:33 says, Romans 3:23 says, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All. Me, you, the guy smoking a joint, and the guy judging him while hiding completely different sins. Romans 6:23 says that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. And Ephesians 2 say, we are saved by grace through faith, not because we managed to create a perfect record. That doesn't mean, cool, Jesus forgives me, so now nothing I do matters. Of course all choices matter. Following Christ should change the way we live. But there's a huge difference between saying, I want to obey God because He saved me, and I need to become perfect so God will save me. Christianity teaches the first one. Personally, I do not believe every occasional use of cannabis is automatically sinful, but I absolutely think it can become sinful when it leads to addiction, loss of self-control, neglecting your responsibilities, violating your conscience, or deliberately trying to completely escape reality all the time. And I would say exactly the same thing about alcohol. Having a glass of wine and getting blacked out drunk are not the same thing. Context matters, intent matters, self-control matters, and your relationship with God matters. So, is smoking weed a sin? I don't think the Bible gives us a simple one-word answer. Instead, it gives us better questions. Does it control you? Does it destroy your self-control? Are you using it to constantly escape reality? Does your conscience tell you to stop? And most importantly, where is Jesus in all of this? Because Christianity was never about pretending we're perfect. It's about recognizing that we are not, and putting our faith in the one who was, Jesus. And here, that applies to people who smoke weed too. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and you will see me on the next one. I'm out.